I didn't realize a single text message could feel like a funeral until my stepsister wrote 3 words that buried our entire relationship. We need distance. My name is Maya Thompson. I'm 27 years old. And this is the story of how my stepsister tried to erase me from her life until the day she ended up needing me more than anyone. If you enjoy real-life stories like mine, don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what happens next. I was in the produce aisle of a Safeway in Portland, trying to decide between 2 bruised avocados, when my phone buzzed. It was Harper, my stepsister, the girl who used to braid my hair before school and steal my hoodies, the girl who'd slowly shifted from my partner in crime to my harshest critic. We need distance. Please don't contact me anymore. I read it 3 times, waiting for some follow-up, a winky face, a JK something, but nothing came. No 3 dots, no. Second thought. I put my basket down and walked out of the store with empty hands. Outside, Portland drizzle had started. I stood beside my car, letting the rain blur my vision. What had I done that was so unforgivable? If you asked Harper, she'd say I betrayed her. If you asked me, I'd say I finally told the truth. To understand, you have to know about us. My mom married Harper's dad, Greg, when I was 12 and Harper was 14. We moved from Denver to Seattle. And suddenly I had a stepsister with perfect eyeliner and very sharp edges. We looked like a normal blended family in photos. Inside our house, it was different. Harper never said, "You ruined my family," out loud. She didn't have to. It was in the way she rolled her eyes when Mom sat in what used to be her mother's chair. In how arguments with Greg circled back to ever since they moved in. At first the tension was petty. She'd forget to tell me about plans, hide my phone, lock the bathroom when she knew I was running late. When something went missing, it was Maya probably moved it. We also had good nights movies on the couch, whispered secrets. The time she drove 2 hours in a snowstorm to pick me up from a college party after my ride ditched me. "It's you and me, okay," she'd said then. No matter what, I held onto that version of her for a long time. So when Harper asked me to be her maid of honor last year, I said yes immediately. She'd moved back to Seattle, landed a digital marketing job, and met Liam, a software engineer. Their life looked perfect. The rehearsal dinner was at a fancy Italian place downtown. Liam's family had flown in. My parents were buzzing with pride. Halfway through, Liam's younger sister clinked her glass and suggested everyone share their favorite Harper story. People went around telling flattering anecdotes, Harper saving projects at work, organizing surprise parties, being the heroine in every scene. When it was my turn, I stood up, palms sweating. Harper watched me with a bright smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. "My favorite Harper story," I began, "is from a bad night." The room quieted. I was 19. My ride ditched me 2 hours from campus. My phone was dying. I called Harper, half expecting her to be annoyed. Instead, she showed up in pajama pants and boots, walked into that house and told everyone, "If you can't see my sister's worth, you don't deserve to be in the same room as her." Then she drove me home. People smiled. Harper relaxed. I could have stopped there. "I think that's who Harper is," I added. "She is fierce for the people she loves." I just hope. I glanced at her. She remembers she doesn't have to win every argument or control every story to stay love. That Liam loves her even when she's not perfect. The silence that followed wasn't loud, but I felt it. Harper's smile froze. Then she laughed, brittle. "Wow, Maya," she said, "remind me never to let you give a TED talk about me." Everyone chuckled. The moment passed. The next day at the wedding, she barely spoke to me unless there was a camera nearby. A week later, when I asked if we could talk about what I'd said, she called me dramatic and accused me of trying to make her look unstable in front of Liam's family. 3 weeks after that, standing in that grocery aisle with rain dripping off my eyelashes, I reread the text. "We need distance. Please don't contact me anymore." I thought that message was the end of our story. I had no idea it was just the beginning. For a while, I convinced myself I was okay with the distance. I deleted Harper's contact, muted her accounts, and told my friends. Honestly, my stress level went down 50%. I took on more design clients, made playlists for walks along the Willamette, and tried to pretend I didn't feel like someone had quietly cut a sibling-shaped piece out of my life. But grief for someone who's still alive is sneaky. I'd reach for my phone to send Harper a video of a dog in a Halloween costume, and remember, she decided I didn't exist. I'd see a TikTok about sisters and feel that hollow drop in my stomach. Mom kept trying to broker peace without ever asking Harper to change. She just needs time, she said on FaceTime, steam rising behind her from a pot of pasta. You know how sensitive she is. Sensitive people don't text, don't contact me, I said. They actually talk. Mom flinched. She felt you were, implying she has control issues. I wasn't implying anything, I said. I said it directly. Mom sighed. You two are both stubborn. That was her favorite way to say, Harper is cruel, and you objected to it, so you're equally at fault. I didn't chase Harper this time. No olive branches. No long apologetic texts trying to clear the air. I decided if she wanted distance, she could sit with what that actually felt like. Months slid by. Through Mom, I heard Harper and Liam bought a renovated bungalow in West Seattle, that she got a promotion, that they were talking about kids. Then, almost a year after the wedding, I heard they weren't talking about it anymore. They had the baby, Mom said, her face glowing through my phone. Little Sophie, she's perfect. Can I come visit? I asked. Instantly, Mom hesitated, and my heart dropped before she even spoke. Harper says she's overwhelmed. Maybe in a few months, when things calm down. Things never calmed down. They just moved on without me. I met my niece the way strangers did, through a screen. There was a photo of Sophie gripping Harper's finger, caption my whole heart. Another of Liam wearing a baby carrier, hair messed up, grinning. In the background, slightly blurred, I could see Mom's profile. Greg's shoulder. The family gathered around Harper. Just not me. I double-tapped the post out of muscle memory, then closed the app and sat there in the quiet. I told myself this was healthy. Boundaries.space.healing. But I still slept with my phone volume on. The call came 14 months after the we need distance message. It was 2:13 a.m. My bedroom was dark except for the glowing rectangle of my phone. Unknown, Seattle, WA. For 3 rings I stared at it, half annoyed, half uneasy. On the 4th I swiped. Hello? Maya. The voice sounded scraped raw. It's Liam. Please don't hang up. I sat up, covers sliding into my lap. Liam, what's going on? Is Sophie okay? She's fine, he said quickly. She's with my parents. It's Harper. The world seemed to tilt. What happened? She collapsed at a client event, he said. 1 second she was talking, the next she was on the floor. They brought her to a Harborview. It's her heart. Some arrhythmia thing they think she's had for a while. He sucked in a shaky breath. I could hear hospital noises behind him, beeps, muffled voices, a rolling cart. They shocked her twice in the ambulance. He continued. She's in cardiac ICU. And the nurse just told me you're listed as her secondary emergency contact and medical proxy if her parents can't be Ray. I blinked hard, trying to wake up. Me, not Greg or my mom. They're on an Alaska cruise. No cell service. The hospitals tried both numbers. You're the backup on all the forms, his voice cracked. The doctor says they may need consent for procedures. They want someone here who knows her. I don't know what to do. A year of silence, and somehow I was still the person on the other end of the in case of emergency line. She hasn't spoken to me in over a year, I said quietly. I know, he whispered. She told me she needed space from you, that you were too negative and made her doubt herself, and I believed her. I'm sorry. But right now I'm standing in a hallway listening to medical words I don't understand and I'm scared out of my mind. That night changed everything. Text me the hospital address, I said. I'll come, you don't have to. She wrote my name down. I cut in. Apparently she trusts me to handle her heart more than she trusts me to tell her the truth. I'll be there. By sunrise, I was on a tiny, half-awake flight from Portland to Seattle, clutching a travel mug of bad airport coffee. Out the window, the city slowly appeared under a gray sky. And my brain kept replaying tiny warning signs I dismissed as Harper being dramatic. The way she'd press a hand to her chest after climbing stairs, breathless, how she always joked, stress is going to kill me before 30. At Harborview, everything felt too bright and too loud. I followed signs to cardiac ICU, heart hammering in my throat. Liam was in a plastic chair outside the unit, suit jacket crumpled beside him, eyes red. He stood when he saw me like he wasn't sure I'd let him. Hey, I said softly. Hey, the word came out broken. I hugged him. It felt weird and right at the same time. Any news? I asked. They stabilized her. He said. They put in a temporary pacemaker. She was in some dangerous rhythm. But they got it back. they're still figuring out why it happened, before I could answer. A woman in navy scrubs walked over. Chart in hand, family of Harper Lewis, she asked. We both stood. I'm drive.nien, she said. Your wife is sedated but stable for now. Over the next few days we'll be making decisions about long-term treatment. She looked at me. You're Maya Thompson? Yes, you're listed as Ms. Lewis's secondary contact and medical proxy if her parents are unavailable, she said. Given the decisions we may have to make, I'd like you involved in the discussions as well. The phrase medical proxy hit harder than I expected. Harper had texted me that she needed distance, then quietly put my name next to the line that said, if my heart stops, she speaks for me. Here's where things got complicated. As I followed Dr. Nguyen into a small consultation room, the fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, one thought sat heavy in my chest. Harper wanted space from my honesty, my boundaries, my version of the story. But when it came to the one thing she couldn't control, her own heartbeat, the person she still trusted to show up was me. They didn't let us see her right away. Dr. Nguyen went over Harper's condition in careful, measured sentences: undiagnosed congenital arrhythmia, an electrical problem in her heart. Episodes she'd probably brushed off for years. They'd placed a temporary pacemaker, they were monitoring her rhythm. They'd know more in the morning. Will she be herself? I asked. In terms of personality, Dr. Nguyen nodded. Once the sedation wears off, yes, but this will change how she lives. Medication, follow-up, possibly a permanent device. Translation, she wasn't going to die tonight, but her illusion of being untouchable? That was already gone. When we finally went in, the room felt too quiet. Harper lay in the bed, pale against crisp white sheets, dark hair pulled back messily, a tangle of wires coming from under her gown. Machines blinked and beeped steadily by her head. I'd seen her in a wedding dress, in a prom dress, in leggings and messy buns. I'd never seen her like this still. Liam hovered on one side of the bed, fingers wrapped around the rail. I stood on the other and took in the tiny details, the chipped light pink nail polish on her index finger. The faint crease between her brows still there even while sedated. She looks small, I said, before I could stop myself. She hasn't slept more than 4 hours a night since Sophie was born, Liam murmured, and she went back to work after 6 weeks. She kept saying, I can't fall behind. Women don't get as many chances. That sounded exactly like Harper, both understandable and self-destructive. Has she had any symptoms? I asked. He nodded. Shortness of breath, dizzy spells. She said it was anxiety. The one time I suggested a cardiology consult, she snapped that I was calling her crazy. I watched her chest rise and fall under the thin blanket. For the first time since the text message, my anger loosened just a little, like a rope tied too tight finally giving an inch. I'm mad at her, I said quietly, but I don't want her to die. I know, Liam said. She's complicated. That's a generous word, I muttered, and he huffed out a tired half-laugh. A nurse came in to check Harper's vitals, glanced between us, and asked, Who's staying tonight? I will, Liam said immediately. You both can, the nurse offered. There's a family room down the hall, and we can bring in a recliner. I shook my head. I'll grab a hotel nearby, I said. Text me if anything changes. I barely slept, but morning still came. When I got back to the hospital, the nurse at the desk told me she's awake. Groggy but aware, my stomach flipped. Inside the room, Harper's eyes were half open, unfocused, watching the ceiling. Liam sat beside her, thumb brushing over her hand. A TV in the corner played muted morning news. Her gaze shifted as I stepped in. For a second, confusion, then clarity, then something like panic. Quickly covered. Oh, she croaked, voice rough from the breathing tube she'd had. You're here. Hi, I said softly. Apparently you made that my job. She winced as she tried to shift. Everything hurts. Yeah, Liam said gently. You scared everyone. Harper ignored that. Her attention stayed on me, like she was trying to decide which version of me this was, the one who covered for her, or the one who handed her mirror back to her at the rehearsal dinner. I didn't expect you, she said. You put my name on your forms, I replied. You kind of did. She closed her eyes briefly. That was years ago, when we did all the paperwork for my job. They made us pick someone who wasn't a parent or partner. I picked you, then you told me to stop contacting you, I said. I didn't raise my voice. The facts were loud enough. Her lips tightened. I needed space, Maya. You made me feel judged. You mean when I suggested you didn't have to control every moment to be loved? I asked. Her eyes flicked toward Liam. He looked down at his shoes. Clearly torn between staying out of it and wanting the truth. Not now, she muttered. I just had heart surgery. A nurse walked in, checked the machines, and left again. Silence stretched between us. Harper, I said finally, the doctor told me I'm your medical proxy when Mom and Greg aren't reachable. That means I get a say in what happens next. I swallowed. Is that what you still want? For a moment, fear cracked through her carefully controlled expression. I don't want to die, she whispered. And I don't trust them. Them who? Liam asked quietly. Our parents, she said like the word tasted bad. Mom will pretend everything's fine until it isn't, and Dad will do whatever looks best from the outside. They'll pick the option that keeps the family reputation intact, not necessarily the one that keeps me alive. I blinked. For just a second, we were on the same team again. Then we listened to the doctors, I said. Not their image management. She nodded once, then swallowed. Maya, yeah, I know you're mad, she said, eyes shining from either pain or something else. Can we talk about everything later, please? Just don't walk away right now. That moment would end up defining everything that followed. Because as much as I wanted to tell her I wasn't her safety net anymore, there was a baby somewhere in West Seattle who still needed a mother. And there was a hospital bracelet on Harper's wrist with my name inked into the small print. I'm not going anywhere, I said. But I'm also not going back to how things were. Her fingers twitched, like she wanted to reach for my hand and didn't quite dare. Okay, she whispered. It was the smallest truce we'd ever made, and the hardest one to keep. My parents arrived that afternoon like a storm in expensive coats. By then, Harper had been moved out of ICU to a step-down unit. She was stable, exhausted, annoyed at the sodium-restricted food. Liam had gone home to shower and check on Sophie. I was in the room scrolling through emails when Mom rushed in, eyes already wet. Oh, sweetheart, she sobbed, going straight to Harper. You scared us half to death. Greg followed, stiff and pale. Carrying a gift bag like this was a get-well card situation. Not a your heart almost stopped situation. I stepped back, letting them swarm her, and watched. They fussed over her hair, her blankets, the angle of the bed. They joked about finally making her slow down. They didn't ask why a 29-year-old had a pacemaker lead coming out of her chest. After about 15 minutes, Harper's eyes flicked to me. Mom, Dad, she said. Maya's here. Mom turned surprised. Oh honey, you came. I'm her medical proxy, I said, keeping my tone neutral. The hospital called me. Greg's mouth pressed into a line. They couldn't reach us. We were in international waters. You turned your phones off, I said. That's different. Mom ignored that. Well, we're here now. We'll handle things from here. No, Harper said. Voice hoarse but clear. I want Maya involved. Mom's brows lifted. You haven't spoken to her in months, darling. I know, Harper said. I was wrong. The words hung there, fragile and unbelievable. My throat did something uncomfortable. Greg cleared his throat. We can talk about that later. Right now, the important thing is your treatment plan. The doctor mentioned options. I think we should go with whatever gets you out of here fastest. Back to normal? There is no back to normal, Dad, Harper said. They want to put in a permanent device. I'll have this for the rest of my life. He looked genuinely startled, like he'd skimmed the brochure but not the fine print. Permanent. Are you sure that's necessary? I stepped in, Dr. Nguyen said without it. Her risk of sudden cardiac death stays high. Mom flinched. Do you have to say it like that? How else is there to say it? I asked. This was the difference between us. They lived in a world where words could be softened until they lost their edges. I'd spent the last few years learning that sometimes you need the sharp version. Later that evening, after our parents went to get real food, Harper motioned for me to close the door. I need to ask you something, she said. That sentence makes me nervous, I replied. But I shut the door. She picked at her blanket, avoiding my eyes. If things had gone worse, if I'd been out longer, they would have asked you to decide. Right, probably, I said, and you would have listened to the doctors. Her voice shook on the last word. Yeah, I said. I would have picked the option that gave you the best chance at staying alive, even if it wasn't pretty. She nodded slowly. That's why I picked you. Anger and sadness and something like love tangled in my chest. If you trust me with your life, I said quietly, Why didn't you trust me enough to talk to me before you cut me off? Harper stared at the window for a long moment. Because you see me too clearly, she said finally. Everyone else buys the highlight reel, you don't. And sometimes that feels like love and sometimes it feels like exposure. And I didn't know how to handle the second part. I leaned against the wall. So you sent a text. Instead of having a conversation. It was cowardly, she admitted. I told myself I was protecting my peace. Really, I was punishing you for being right about me. Hearing her say it out loud hurt more than I expected and healed something at the same time. She took a breath. I need another favor. There it is, I muttered. Go on. If something happened to me, she said, I want Sophie to stay with Liam, not our parents. They've already started hinting about how confusing it would be for her to grow up in a house without a foo. Well, time, mother, I know them. They'll push for custody if they get a chance. Okay, I said. Slowly, and where do I come in? I need someone on paper agreeing with me, she said, a guardianship document, a letter, something that says, if it comes down to a fight. I wanted my daughter with her father and, if he needs help, with you. Not with them. I stared at her. You cut me out of your life but kept me as backup for your heart. And your child? Tears pulled in her eyes. Because even when I hated you, I trusted you, she whispered. Those things don't feel as opposite as they should. I didn't answer right away. I thought about Mom telling me to see Harper's side. About all the years I'd let myself be the emotional trash can of the family. I'll help write it, I said at last. On one condition, Harper sniffed. What? When you're out of here and not full of hospital drugs. We go to a therapist, together. A real one, not Mom playing referee. We talk about the text. The wedding, the years before that, all of it. No more pretending things are fine because you scared us and we feel guilty. She made a face. Therapy. You literally have a machine helping your heart beat, I said. Maybe let someone help your brain too. She let out a breath that was almost a laugh. You're still bossy, I learned from the best. She looked at me for a long moment. Okay, she said quietly, I'll go. Once. Don't get excited, that's all I'm asking, I said. It wasn't forgiveness. Not yet. But it was a start. And for the first time since the rehearsal dinner, I felt like I might survive loving Harper without losing myself. Harper didn't become a different person overnight. She left the hospital with a permanent device in her chest, a list of medications, and a packet on lifestyle changes she called my new enemy. She hated asking for help. She rolled her eyes at every reminder to rest. She made jokes about being part robot before anyone else could. But she went to therapy once like she promised. Then again. Then regularly. Sometimes I sat in the waiting room during her sessions, scrolling my phone, listening to other people's names being called. Sometimes we went to joint appointments where we unwrapped old memories like fragile glass. We talked about the first Christmas after our parents married. When her mom sent a box of gifts and Harper found them all opened on the kitchen table because Mom assumed they were for the whole family. We talked about the night I told Greg he was drinking too much and he punished me with silence. For weeks while calling Harper his rock, we talked about how I learned to apologize first, and she learned that she didn't have to. Every story needs a villain, our therapist said once, and your family kept trying to choose one sister. The truth is, neither of you is the villain. The pattern is, it was a slow, messy process. Some sessions ended with relief, some ended with both of us leaving in separate Ubers. Meanwhile, life kept moving. Harper shifted to a less demanding role at her company. Liam quietly restructured his schedule so he could take more of the load with Sophie. Our parents adapted. Kind of. Mom still pretended everything was back to normal. Greg avoided mentioning the word heart like it was profanity. Sophie grew from a squishy baby into a toddler with wild curls and opinions. The first time I met her in person, she hid her face in Liam's shoulder, peeking out with huge gray eyes. This is Aunt Maya, Liam said gently. She came on a plane just to see you. Sophie stared at me for a long moment, then reached out and grabbed my hair. Nice to meet you too, I laughed. I started visiting Seattle every few weeks, sometimes staying with Liam and Sophie when Harper had follow-up appointments. We settled into a strange, 3-adult rhythm, me cooking, Liam doing bedtime, Harper appearing on the couch in her sweats, pretending not to be exhausted. One night, after Sophie had finally fallen asleep and the house was quiet, Harper and I sat at the kitchen table with mugs of tea. My phone buzzed, lighting up the wood between us. A notification from a year-old group chat. A memory that had resurfaced. A screenshot of the "we need distance" text I'd sent to a friend with the message, "I guess this is it." Harper glanced at it, then at me. "Do you still have it?" she asked. The text, I shrugged, "Yeah. I don't really delete things, can I see it?" I unlocked my phone, scrolled back, and turned the screen toward her. She read it slowly, like she was seeing it for the first time. Her face crumpled. "I remember sending it," she said. I was sitting on the couch, angry and embarrassed, I guess. I just stalked the rehearsal dinner pictures and convinced myself everyone was laughing at that speech. I told myself, "You did it on purpose." "I didn't," I said. "I know," she said. "The therapist keeps asking me why accountability feels like an attack to me." "I'm still working on that." She placed my phone down carefully. "I thought if I told you I needed distance, you'd chase me," she admitted. "Call, show up, beg me to talk, prove that I was the one with power. When you didn't, I panicked." I told myself, "You didn't care, that's not fair," I said quietly. "I know," she repeated. "I'm not saying it was rational. I'm saying that was my twisted little loop." And then time kept passing, and it got harder to fix, and I was stubborn, and she gestured vaguely at her chest. And then this happened. We sat in silence for a moment, listening to the hum of the fridge. "I'm not glad you got sick," I said. "But I'm glad the pretending stopped," she snorted. "Morbid silver linings." "I mean it," I said. "If this hadn't happened, I think we would have stayed stuck forever." Me tiptoeing. You punishing. Mom making excuses. At least now everything is out in the open. Harper looked down at the thin scar just visible above the neckline of her shirt. "When I woke up in the ICU and saw you," she said softly, "my first thought was, of course she came, and my second thought was, I don't deserve that." I didn't know what to say to that, so I didn't say anything. "You keep showing up even after I told you to go away," she went on. "You helped me write guardianship papers that protect my kid from our parents. You sit in those boring waiting rooms while I talk about how messed up I am. You still call me out when I snap at nurses. And you don't let me make you the bad guy anymore." "I'm trying," I said. She nodded. "You're doing it. I hate it sometimes. But I also need it." She was quiet for a long beat. "I'm not going to send you that text again," she said. "If I need space, I'll say, I'm overwhelmed, can we talk tomorrow? Not, don't contact me, you didn't deserve that." It wasn't a grand apology. But it was real. A few months later, on the anniversary of her surgery, we went for a slow walk around Green Lake. Harper with a crossbody bag full of meds and snacks, me pushing Sophie's stroller while she narrated every dog we passed. Harper slipped her phone into my hand. "Here," she said. "Read this." It was a draft text, never sent, addressed to me. "I didn't need distance from you. I needed distance from the version of myself I saw when you told me the truth." I looked up at her. "Why didn't you send it?" "I wasn't ready yet," she said. "I am now. I think, but I'd rather say it." She took a breath. "I don't need distance anymore," she said. "I need boundaries and your annoying honesty, and the way you love Sophie. And the way you told a room full of people that I was fierce when I wasn't sure I believed it." My chest tightened. "Okay," I said, "then I need something too." She raised an eyebrow. "Of course you do. I need you to remember that loving me doesn't come with a delete button," I said. "You don't get to erase me when I'm inconvenient. If you're mad, say it. If I hurt you, tell me. But no more nuclear texts." She winced. "Deal," Sophie squealed at a passing duck, and we both laughed. And that's how I learned that sometimes, we need distance really means I don't know how to sit with my own reflection yet. Harper's heart condition didn't magically make her kind. Therapy didn't magically make me patient. Our parents didn't magically change. But I stopped letting her pain turn into my responsibility, and she stopped pretending my existence was the problem. These days, when my phone buzzes with a text from her, it's usually a photo of Sophie or a rant about insurance or a simple "Are you free to talk?" I'm spiraling. Sometimes I answer right away. Sometimes I say, "I love you but I'm tired. Tomorrow." And the miracle is, she says, "Okay, family should be about love, not control. About presence, not punishment. About learning when to step closer and when to step back without burning everything down in between." Harper texted, "We need distance," and for a long time I thought that meant we were done. What it really meant was that we were finally going to decide what kind of sisters we were going to be on purpose, not by default. If you're listening to this and you've been cast as the villain in someone else's family story, I hope you remember this. You're allowed to protect your heart and still show up for other people's emerg. NCs. You're allowed to say no to being erased. And you're allowed to choose yourself, even when the people you love most don't know how to choose you back yet.